my name is Maggie Green and welcome back to Art Review. Today we're going to be talking about food art, which is so awesome. A lot of these painters paint really large, so we'll see a couple of pictures of those artists in their studios working on paintings. We're going to be looking at 5 painters today. First one is Pamela Michelle Johnson. Pamela was a civil engineer for about 4 years before she decided to pursue a career in fine art. And she paints the quintessential American diet, full of burgers, waffles, fast food, things like that. And she paints them in kind of a bleak, dark setting with unusual compositions. And this kind of draws your attention to how strange these foods are. A lot of times it's just gluttonous amounts of food, just a huge stack of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or something like that. And what she aims to do with her paintings is draw attention to the gluttonous American diet not only being about food, but also about the whole culture where we devour as much as we can until there is nothing left but the consequential garbage. So something really cool to think about there. She lives and works in Chicago. Next up is Karen Appleton. Karen paints these also kind of quintessential American foods, but she's not a hyper-realist painter. Her paintings give the effect of having a lot of weight to me, so a lot of texture to that paint, really sculpturally describing all the shapes. And some of her paintings, she has a series of work called Salad Days, where she's painting an egg salad sandwich, a chicken salad sandwich, so kind of some of the quintessential American lunches. And then she also has a painting called Amen, which is like a well-rounded meal with a perfect table setting, and it just really reminds you kind of a nostalgic view of like maybe the 1960s growing up. Something I noticed when I went to Karen's website is she does this very smart marketing tactic, so artists listen up. She made it so that when you hover over one of her paintings, you can see it in a room. And I've seen a couple of artists do this on their website. I think it's very effective so that potential customers can understand the scale of the painting in real life and start to imagine it in their own space. Cris Krupinsky is a watercolor hyper-realist painter of food and textures. And I love the color and the light she brings into these spaces. A lot of her compositions have not that many objects in them, but she'll bring in like a quilt that has so many textures and so much change of light and color throughout the background. And she gives just as much attention to the surfaces, like the quilt, as she does to the fruit that sits on top of it. And I just love the texture play between the skin of the fruit and the soft texture of the quilt. I think she does an amazing job capturing the light and the color on these shapes. Cris has won lots of awards. She's an amazing technical painter. Pedro Campos is a hyper-realist painter, and he has a background working in art restoration, as well as even some illustration for ad agencies before he decided at age 30 to become a fine artist. So in his hyper-realist paintings, you can really see an attention to just getting everything perfect. The smooth, perfect textures shock the senses in his paintings. Really amazing attention to that, and that comes from his background in art restoration, where you shouldn't be able to see the artist's hand in the restoration process. So he really learned from that old career how to magnify his skill. One of the things I like a lot about Pedro's work is his attention to the soft and crisp edges when he brings a plastic bag into the mix. So you'll see in some of his paintings there's a plastic bag that's holding a bunch of items, and some areas the plastic bag clings to the object and some it kind of floats away from the image, and you can see how that distorts the color and the shape of what's behind it. I think he does an amazing job capturing representationally what happens to the object when you throw, that opaque or translucent plastic in front of the object. On Pedro's website, he talks about having an individual style with his hyper-realist painting, and I thought that was interesting that he would note that, because I always find that no matter what, even if the artist is trying to hide it, I always find that there's some kind of signature something about what they do, even if they're working from a photograph like a hyperrealist painter does. Even though he's trying to paint everything exactly as it shows in the photo, he still has an individual style. And I think that that's something that's magical about art, and I think that that's a really cool thing to look for. All right, here's the big guy, Tjalf Sparnaay. I found Tjalf Sparnaay several years ago, and it inspired me so much, and I made this painting. He's definitely noted as the leading contemporary food painter worldwide, and that's obvious from looking at his paintings. There are some paintings of him working in the studio where you can really see how large the pieces are. He really builds the three-dimensional space that the food is sitting in. Something that Tjalf mentioned is, "My paintings are intended to enable the viewer to experience reality once again, to rediscover the essence of the object that has become so common. I wish to reduce it to the DNA of the universal structure in all its beauty." I think this is something that a lot of painters enjoy doing, especially painters of domestic situations, really trying to bring attention to these scenes of our daily lives that go unnoticed. I think that's a really wonderful way to experience life. It's almost like a painting has us living in the moment more than we are able to live in the moment ourselves. So one of the things I really like about Tjalf's websites is that you can see his evolution. So he has all his paintings in there, even from before 1996, which was like 12 years ago now. So he has been painting hyper-realistic food images since about 1997, but before that, he has some of his earlier paintings. And you can see him experimenting a little bit with different subject matter. Some of his paintings have a surreal kind of edge to them, some landscape sort of things, and he really doesn't stick to the food thing until about 1997. So that's pretty interesting, I think, for young artists who are still building their niche, still kind of figuring out their body of work. I think it's important for us young artists to see artists like Tjalf having much different work before he really found his niche. There's a series I really enjoy that Tjalf made called the Fried Egg series, and I believe that this is what really is his claim to fame, what really started his professional career in hyperrealist food painting. And he paints just a single fried egg and many different single fried eggs. And I just think this is so cool because what a great practice for a painter to do, to paint their breakfast every morning. You know, like if it's the same thing, notice the intricacies, notice what's different. I just love this. There's a great 2014 documentary on Tjalf Sparnaay that you can find on YouTube. I'll link it in the description, but it's a great one. It's about 40 minutes long. I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today on Art Review. If you have a favorite artist you want me to review, just post it in the comments below and I'll review it next week. Otherwise, I will see you Thursday at 4 p.m. Thanks. Bye.